The modern lifestyle creates significant challenges for spinal health that previous generations never experienced. Extended periods of sitting, forward head postures from computer use, and reduced physical activity contribute to widespread back pain and postural problems that affect millions of people across all age groups. Understanding the mechanics of spinal compression helps explain why these issues have become so prevalent. The human spine evolved for upright movement and varied positioning throughout the day. When we maintain static positions for extended periods, particularly seated positions with poor ergonomics, the intervertebral discs experience uneven pressure distribution that can lead to degeneration over time. Research from occupational health studies shows that prolonged sitting increases intradiscal pressure by approximately 40% compared to standing. This increased pressure, maintained over hours daily and years consistently, contributes to disc dehydration, reduced nutrient exchange, and gradual structural changes that manifest as pain, stiffness, and reduced mobility. The statistics surrounding back pain prevalence are indeed concerning, though the specific claim that 90% of adults will experience chronic back pain by age 50 requires clarification. According to the Global Burden of Disease study, lower back pain affects approximately 80% of people at some point in their lives, with prevalence increasing with age. However, distinguishing between acute episodes and chronic conditions is important for accurate understanding. Chronic back pain, defined as pain lasting more than 3 months, affects roughly 20% of those who experience an initial episode of acute back pain. While these numbers are significant enough to warrant attention and prevention efforts, it's important to present statistics accurately to avoid unnecessary alarm while still emphasizing the importance of proactive spinal health measures. The connection between posture and overall health extends beyond simple pain prevention. Poor spinal alignment can indeed affect breathing efficiency, as forward head posture and rounded shoulders can restrict full chest expansion and diaphragmatic breathing. However, claims about significantly shortened lifespan specifically due to posture require more nuanced examination of the research. Studies do show correlations between physical fitness, postural stability, and longevity, but these relationships involve multiple confounding variables including overall activity levels, cardiovascular health, muscle strength, and other lifestyle factors. While maintaining good posture is certainly beneficial for quality of life and functional capacity as we age, the specific claim of 7 to 10 years of life lost due to posture alone appears to be an oversimplification of complex research findings. The NASA research on astronauts and spinal elongation in microgravity represents genuine scientific findings that offer insights into spinal mechanics. Astronauts do experience spinal elongation during spaceflight, typically gaining 1 to 3% in height due to the absence of gravitational loading on the spine. This occurs because intervertebral discs expand when not compressed by body weight and gravitational forces. However, this research has important limitations when applied to earthbound posture interventions. The microgravity environment creates conditions impossible to replicate on Earth, and astronauts also experience significant muscle atrophy and bone density loss that require extensive rehabilitation upon return. The spinal changes observed in space don't necessarily translate to practical interventions for terrestrial spinal health. While spinal decompression techniques can provide temporary relief and may have therapeutic benefits, the dramatic claims about reversing spinal aging should be viewed with appropriate skepticism. The aging process involves multiple biological mechanisms including cellular senescence, oxidative stress, and accumulated tissue damage that cannot be reversed through posture exercises alone. Ancient wisdom traditions did indeed recognize the importance of spinal alignment for overall health and vitality. Yoga, traditional Chinese medicine, and other systems developed sophisticated understandings of how posture affects energy flow, breathing, and general well-being. These observations, made over centuries of careful attention to body-mind relationships, provide valuable insights that complement modern scientific understanding. However, it's important to distinguish between metaphorical and literal interpretations of traditional concepts. Terms like life force or energy pathways represent experiential descriptions of physiological processes rather than measurable physical phenomena. Modern research helps explain the mechanisms underlying traditional observations about posture and health. The proposed Celestial Spine Reset exercise incorporates several elements that align with evidence-based postural training principles. Standing with proper foot positioning, engaging core muscles, and practicing spinal elongation are all supported by research on postural rehabilitation and movement re-education. The visualization component, imagining a string pulling the head skyward, represents a common and effective cueing technique used by physical therapists and movement specialists. This type of mental imagery can help activate the deep cervical flexors and postural muscles that support proper spinal alignment. The breathing component is also well supported, as coordinated breathing helps activate the diaphragm and deep core muscles that provide spinal stability. Research shows that people with chronic low back pain often have altered breathing patterns and reduced core muscle activation, making breath-focused exercises therapeutically relevant. However, some claims about the immediate effects of this 5-second exercise require more realistic expectations. While proper postural exercises can certainly provide immediate awareness of improved alignment and may offer some relief from muscle tension, claims about neurological reset and reprogramming spine's relationship with gravity represent oversimplified descriptions of complex neuromuscular adaptations that typically require consistent practice over time. The physiological explanation of synovial fluid release and disc rehydration contains elements of truth but oversimplifies the timeline and mechanisms involved. While movement and postural changes can influence fluid dynamics within spinal joints, significant changes in disc hydration and synovial fluid production occur over longer time frames and require sustained behavioral changes rather than single brief exercises. The mention of vagus nerve activation through spinal decompression exercises reflects emerging research into the connections between postural practices and autonomic nervous system function. Some studies suggest that certain movement and breathing patterns can influence parasympathetic nervous system activity, which may contribute to stress reduction and improved recovery processes. However, the specific mechanisms and immediate effects described may be overstated. While postural exercises can contribute to overall stress management and may influence autonomic function, presenting these as immediate and dramatic effects could create unrealistic expectations that might lead to disappointment when results are more gradual and subtle. The concept of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural pathways, is legitimate and relevant to postural rehabilitation. Motor learning research shows that practicing new movement patterns can indeed create changes in brain organization and improve motor control over time. However, these changes typically require consistent practice over weeks to months rather than occurring after single brief exercises. Developing better postural habits does involve retraining automatic movement patterns and can benefit from regular practice and conscious attention. The suggestion to practice postural awareness hourly throughout the day aligns with research showing that frequent movement breaks and postural variation are beneficial for spinal health. However, the specific timeline provided for the 7-day Spine Revolution Challenge may create unrealistic expectations about the pace of postural change. While some people may notice improvements in awareness and minor symptom relief within days, significant postural adaptations and strength changes typically require weeks to months of consistent practice. Setting realistic expectations is important for maintaining motivation and preventing disappointment. Most people will benefit from regular postural exercises and movement breaks, but changes are usually gradual and require patience and consistency rather than dramatic transformation in a week. The emphasis on community support and accountability can be beneficial for maintaining exercise adherence. Social support and regular check-ins are well-documented factors in successful behavior change programs. However, this should be balanced with realistic expectations about individual variation in response to postural interventions. Some people may experience rapid improvements in symptoms, while others may need more time or different approaches based on their specific conditions, fitness levels, and underlying factors contributing to their postural problems. Individual assessment by qualified healthcare providers can help identify the most appropriate interventions for each person's situation. The broader message about taking responsibility for spinal health through proactive measures is valuable and supported by research. Regular exercise, postural awareness, ergonomic modifications, and movement throughout the day can significantly reduce the risk of developing chronic back pain and improve quality of life as people age. Workplace interventions that include ergonomic assessments, movement breaks, and employee education about spinal health have shown effectiveness in reducing work-related musculoskeletal disorders. Personal habits like regular exercise, strength training, and attention to daily posture can complement these workplace efforts. Sleep position and mattress quality do indeed affect spinal health, as the spine needs proper support during the approximately 8 hours spent in bed each night. Research shows that medium-firm mattresses and sleep positions that maintain spinal neutrality can help reduce back pain and improve sleep quality. The morning routine concept has merit, as the spine is typically stiffest upon waking due to overnight fluid accumulation in the discs. Gentle movement and stretching in the morning can help restore normal spinal mobility and prepare the body for daily activities. However, claims about preventing 90% of back injuries through any single intervention should be viewed skeptically, as back injuries result from multiple factors including sudden movements, heavy lifting with poor form, muscle imbalances, previous injury history, and individual anatomical variations. Comprehensive approaches that address multiple risk factors are more realistic and effective than single interventions, regardless of how well designed they might be. This typically includes strength training, flexibility work, movement education, ergonomic modifications, and sometimes professional treatment for existing problems. The integration of movement throughout the workday represents one of the most evidence-based recommendations for preventing work-related musculoskeletal problems. Research consistently shows that prolonged static postures, regardless of whether they're correct postures, can contribute to discomfort and dysfunction. Regular position changes, brief walking breaks, and simple stretches or postural exercises can help counteract the effects of prolonged sitting. These interventions are often more practical and sustainable than attempting to maintain perfect posture for extended periods. Ergonomic workplace design should complement these movement strategies. Properly adjusted monitor height, keyboard and mouse positioning, chair support, and foot positioning can reduce postural stress and make it easier to maintain healthier positions during necessary periods of focused work. The concept of ergonomic posture secrets that Fortune 500 companies don't want you to know likely overstates the conspiratorial nature of workplace ergonomics. Most large companies actually invest significantly in ergonomic programs because work-related injuries are expensive in terms of workers' compensation claims, productivity loss, and employee satisfaction. The principles of good workplace ergonomics are well established and publicly available through occupational safety organizations, research institutions, and ergonomic professionals. The challenge is often implementation and individual adaptation rather than access to secret knowledge. Professional athletes do indeed use various recovery and injury prevention techniques, including some forms of spinal decompression and postural training. However, these approaches are typically part of comprehensive programs that include strength training, skill practice, nutrition optimization, sleep management, and professional healthcare support. Athletic performance interventions often involve higher intensities and frequencies than would be appropriate for the general population, and they're implemented under professional supervision with regular monitoring for effectiveness and safety. Adapting elite athletic practices to general fitness and health maintenance requires appropriate modifications for different fitness levels and goals. The emphasis on individual responsibility for health is valuable, but it should be balanced with recognition that many factors affecting spinal health are environmental and systemic. Access to ergonomic workstations, opportunities for physical activity, quality healthcare, and education about injury prevention are influenced by socioeconomic factors beyond individual control. Effective spinal health promotion requires both individual behavior change and supportive environments that make healthy choices easier and more accessible. This might include workplace wellness programs, community exercise facilities, healthcare coverage for preventive services, and public education about the importance of movement and postural health. The suggestion to share information with others who might benefit reflects the community health aspect of injury prevention. When more people in a workplace or community understand and practice good postural habits, it can create cultural changes that support everyone's health and well-being. However, sharing health information should be done thoughtfully, with awareness that different people have different needs, preferences, and circumstances. What works for one person may not be appropriate for another, and some individuals may need professional assessment before beginning new exercise programs. The call to action regarding likes, subscriptions, and engagement reflects the realities of social media content creation, but the focus should remain on the quality and accuracy of health information rather than viral spread of potentially oversimplified or exaggerated claims. Reliable health information should be evidence-based, acknowledge limitations and individual variation, provide realistic expectations, and encourage professional consultation when appropriate. While engaging presentation can help capture attention, accuracy and safety should never be compromised for the sake of entertainment or viral potential. The overall message about taking proactive steps for spinal health is valuable and supported by research. Regular movement, postural awareness, strength training, and attention to ergonomics can indeed contribute significantly to reducing back pain risk and maintaining functional capacity throughout life. The most effective approaches typically combine multiple strategies adapted to individual needs, circumstances, and preferences. This might include formal exercise programs, workplace modifications, stress management techniques, professional treatment when needed, and gradual behavior changes that can be sustained over time. The key insight is that spinal health is influenced by many factors and benefits from consistent attention rather than dramatic short-term interventions. While simple exercises and postural awareness can be valuable components of a comprehensive approach, they work best as part of a balanced lifestyle that includes regular physical activity, stress management, adequate sleep, and appropriate professional support when needed. Understanding the scientific basis for spinal health recommendations helps people make informed decisions about which interventions might be most beneficial for their specific situations. This knowledge can also help distinguish between evidence-based approaches and exaggerated claims that might lead to unrealistic expectations or potentially harmful practices. The human spine is indeed remarkable in its complexity and importance for overall health and function. Treating it with appropriate respect through evidence-based care, realistic expectations, and consistent healthy habits represents the most reliable path toward maintaining spinal health throughout life.